City Departments and Conversations, Coordinating Care for Children, Youth, and Families. In this panel, you will hear directly from San Francisco's department leaders about how the city supports children, youth, and families. Department heads from the Department of Children, Youth, and their families, from the school district, from HSH and DEC will share their department's role in the city and county's ecosystem of care, celebrate successful collaborations, and discuss opportunities for even stronger connections. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Stephen Sherrill, the district supervisor for D2, who is a father and someone, oh, there's some excitement, let's go. Who is a father and someone who cares deeply about this topic. Supervisor Sherrill will be moderating this panel and will introduce you to the panelists. Thank you so much.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, excellent. Well, welcome everybody, or should I say you've been here and I just got here, so welcome to me. No, but in all seriousness, this is a really important day today. All of us are here, children, youth, families, all of us are here because we want to be a part of building the future, but we also know that we have to start today for that future to happen. And so for me, I think like many of you, this is very personal. I've got two little kids, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old at home. And my wife and I know, like so many of you, how hard it is to raise a family here in San Francisco. But the great news is we have a lot of resources for that. Now, it's a complex web. It's a complex web of funding. It's a complex web of departments. It's a complex web of nonprofits and programs. But when we put it all together, it's a cradle-to-career continuum. And so today I'm very excited to bring up 4 excellent leaders, and I'm going to introduce them in a second. But when we look at the needs, housing, health care, child care, after school, violence prevention, when we look at the needs, we know that a child doesn't just fit with Department A or Department B, it fits across that. And so this complex web of services requires an enormous amount of thoughtfulness and coordination. So today our panelists are going to come up here in a second, but today our panelists are going to share with us a little bit about how these departments work together to ensure the services are delivered, and we're going to talk about some of the challenges that we're seeing and also some of the opportunities. Because for me, I've been talking about kind of a crazy goal. How do we make San Francisco the #1 choice for families in America? Now that's crazy because we have a massive affordability program here. But if we're not doing crazy stuff, I think we're wasting our time. I think San Francisco is an incredible city. It's an incredible city for the families that can afford to be here. And if we can increase affordability, increase opportunity here in San Francisco, led by these 4 fabulous, fabulous servants, and they are public servants, it's really incredible. I think we can make San Francisco the #1 choice for families. Maybe it could be in 10 years like I want it, maybe not. But 20, that's the level we want to shoot for. So today I'd like to introduce our 4 panelists, if you'll come up here. We have Maria Sue, the superintendent of the school system. We've got Sherrice Dorsey Smith, the director of Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And this is actually exciting. Sherrice and I have been on some Zooms together, but we actually never met in person. So I'm like kind of, I got a celebrity moment here. Ingrid Mezquita, the director of Early Childhood. And, of course, Marion Sanders, who I'd have the pleasure to work with for a few years now, who's the Deputy Director of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. So thank you all so much for being here. But again, if I can leave you all in the audience with one thing. Today is about learning, but tomorrow is going to be about action. So what hopefully you all learned today, I hope you all take out as we continue to build San Francisco going forward. So thank you, and thank you all. So in a second, you're going to introduce yourselves just a little bit. But I'm going to kind of start with some questions here. And the key thing is to be pithy and aggressive and maybe say controversial things. So no, that's not. That's different. Okay, sorry, wrong panel. That's later this afternoon.
He already left.
So, okay, great. No, but so I just want to start here briefly. And we'll go down the line. And could each of you just say a little bit about how your departments play a unique role in supporting children, youth, and families Sherrice, because this is our first time being together, I want to start with you.
All right, if I can get the mic out. Oh my God. My voice is loud anyway. I probably don't even need a mic. Hello. Good morning, everyone. So, Sherrice Dorsey Smith, Executive Director for Department of Children, Youth, and Their Families. Thank you. You guys make me blush. DCYF, we're a grant-making department fundamentally, but we do much more than that. We're also policymakers, we're conveners, collaborators, but most importantly, supporters of all the work that nonprofits do, that our city departments, other city departments do, that the school district does, and that what our families do. We fund programs for 0 to 24, ranging from early childhood education to out-of-school time, to sports, youth workforce development, justice services, violence prevention intervention work, and youth empowerment. Oh my God, I'm kind of blind at these lights up here, sorry. We also collaborate with other departments around health and wellness, taste system of care, and community development. We are grounded in 4 areas where we want to see children ready to learn and succeed in school, that youth are productive for work, youth are ready for college, work, and a productive adulthood, that children and youth are emotionally, physically, and mentally healthy, and that children and youth are supported by nurturing families and communities. Within this ecosystem, and I wrote this down because folks know I could talk and talk, so I wanted to make sure I get this point. But within this ecosystem, we are leaders and supporters. I'm gonna say that again, leaders and supporters. In order to lead, you also have to support, you have to know how to follow. And we do that. This interconnectedness that we have, we fund to support, to help keep folks on track, to help keep our children and youth on track. If they go off track, we have supports to get them back on track because we want them to succeed and thrive. We work with the most vulnerable population. Thanks to all of you in this room, we have served over 31,000 students and counting. And we all collectively make sure to make San Francisco a great place for children and youth and families to thrive.
All right, thank you. So, Marion, let's kick it down to you. Tell us a little bit about how HSH is involved in this continuum.
Thanks so much. Marion Sanders, Chief Deputy Director at the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. So at HSH, our chief responsibility is to prevent and end homelessness. And for anyone that experiences homelessness, our job is to make it rare, brief, and one time. And so we have a pretty specific strategic vision that's outlined in our Home by the Bay strategic plan. If you hadn't had a chance to take a look at it, please do. But one of the goals that I want to just pull out of there is that we seek to end unsheltered homelessness for families within the next 5 years. And one thing that I want to highlight, you guys can clap for that. One of the things that I want to highlight particularly and say kudos to all our web of community-based organizations and partners is that we are going to be publishing an addendum to our strategic plan around specifically for youth. And so that kind of engagement process has already happened. I'm trying to find my team to see. Are we getting ready to publish it? Yes, we're getting ready to publish the youth addendum, and then we have just kicked off an engagement strategy to coalesce around a family-specific addendum to our strategic plan. And again, our partners advocated around making sure that we had specific call-outs for those populations and specifically community-driven strategies to ensure that we end homelessness for those populations. Taking a step back a little bit, we fund a number of different things, and it's our job to create a homelessness continuum of care. from anybody that's experiencing street-based homelessness all the way through to permanent supportive housing and aftercare. And one of the ways that we do that, particularly for families and youth and children, is recently with our Safer Families initiative. And that was a $50 million investment into families and the family system. And it marks like my initial entry in working in San Francisco. I've been with the city for 2 years. And when I came, one of my director, Sherrill McSpadden, she indicated to me that we have a crisis as it relates to families, and we need to figure out how we are going to create flow in our family system. This particular plan did that by investing and creating subsidies for families to flow out of the shelter system so that families that are sitting at the front door trying to get in and were able to get into shelter beds. And so that's what that strategy is all about. Why this matters? It matters because initiatives like that and others seek to break the cycle of homelessness amongst families in our community and also prevent generational homelessness within San Francisco.
Marion, thank you. You know, one thing that I just want to, you touched on the goal of ending family unsheltered homelessness within 5 years. I think it's incredibly important for us to note that that's a pretty targeted goal. It's not we're going to end homelessness for everybody in 5 years. It's not we're going to end unsheltered homelessness for everybody in 5 years. I think it's really important. That's such a great goal because it's targeted at a specific population. It's really hard to accomplish those big things without the smaller interim goals. So I thought that was a really good thing you highlighted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ingrid, Director Mezquita, you're up.
Much easier than trying to get it out of this thing. So good morning, buenos dias. I'm Ingrid Mezquita. I'm the director for the San Francisco Department of Early Childhood, which is the baby sister of DCYF. So everything that Sherrice said, we do, but for a much younger group. So our focus is prenatal, up to 5. We're a public funder, as many as you know, and we fund in 3 really core areas. And the way that I see it is that if you're watching a 49ers game, for example, you're really paying attention to the first quarter. We're your first quarter. It's in that early childhood space, yeah. So what happens, and I know that most of you know this by now because this has been said over and over again, that in the first 3 years of life, 90% of your brain is developed. So this is the most opportune time to be able to wrap around not only services for the parents, but for all the care system. That means the early educators and everyone like you who makes possible for families to be able to thrive in San Francisco. As a San Franciscan, I'll tell you all the services that have been mentioned here, I've been to. So I lived across the street from Good Sam. Hey, Good Sam. Yeah, started there when I was 3. Then across the street over to Mission Neighborhood Centers for Head Start by 4. Then to Jamestown for after school. Then, and I can go on and on and on. It is this network of support systems that we're building in the early childhood space around really thinking about what are the things that we need to do very concretely for families to be able to raise children in San Francisco. So San Francisco has children that have joyful experiences. And so this is where we partner with all the city departments and with the school district because we do see this as a cradle to career. This is about setting up the best foundation for children, families, to be able to go across all of these systems seamlessly. So we fund early care and education, birth to 5. Right, as the mayor said, we actually have increased an enormous amount of access for children and families across the city. Currently, we have close to 73% of families who are eligible actually have access to early care and education. That's completely unprecedented. For 4-year-olds, because of TK, and thank you, district, we have the highest preschool participation rate than any other place in San Francisco. This leads to school readiness, which leads to school career, which leads to economic and also lifelong, not only learning, but also well-being.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Maria, you're up. You got a tough act to follow here, but I think you can do it.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be in community with my former friends and colleagues. You're actually never former, you're current, and I will probably lean on you for additional supports in the very near future. So thank you to Supervisor Sherrill for being here with us. And I did have a chance to talk to the mayor a little bit outside, and he said that he sufficiently got you all prepared for this conversation. So I wasn't 100% sure what he meant by that. I assume what he meant was that we as a community are ready to stand up for our children and work together so that we will be families' first choice in a year or two.
Whoa, that's an
I'm
aggressive
just
goal.
saying, why 5? Why 10? We should be, San Francisco should be the mecca of where supports for children, academic excellence, family supports, and where families are thriving should be. When they think of San Francisco, they should think about strong schools where we are supporting our children to be academically successful as well as prepared for life. Knowing that when they come into San Francisco, they participate in SFUSD, they will have the services that our Department of Early Childhood is providing, or that DCYF is providing, and that no families are living on the streets. That's the vision. And I do believe that when we, as a community of leaders who care about our children and families, come together, we will be able to achieve that. I have the proud privilege of being the superintendent of SFUSD. I've taken on this role now for a year. And in the year that I've been doing this work, I do and I see and I feel the love that everyone has for SFUSD. There has been no conversation that I've gone to where they said, yeah, it's okay. We can let the public school system fail, right? Everywhere I go, everyone wants our public school systems to thrive and be strong, because everyone knows a strong public education means a strong city, means a strong populace, means that we actually care for our children, our most vulnerable in our community, because that is who we are. So thank you so much for having me here, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
All right. Thank you all very much. So this is about collaboration. And I think all of you know that in order to service these needs, it takes working together so that we don't have gaps. So I want to, for this next section, pair you off a little bit. And we will prove up here how collaborative you can be. And so I want, I hope, oh my God. No, but I want to, in this next one, talk about successful collaborations. And so I want to talk about specifically one program or initiative where collaboration has been really important. So for this first one, I'd love to, if you're okay with it, Sherrice and Ingrid, pair you two up to talk about a successful collaboration between your two departments. Could be FRCI or another one, But I'd love for you two to talk about what a successful collaboration has looked like with specific. Let's give people an example of a real thing that really happened, and talk a little bit about how you collaborated and what success looked like at the end of the day for you.
Well, I can start off. I think the Family Resource Center initiative, which many of you are a part of, woo! It already had its quinceañera, I think, a couple of years ago. But it's one of the longest standing collaborations within city departments that includes us, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and also the Human Services Agency. And if you've all have been around long enough, you know that there's a graveyard of initiatives, right, that we often visit. But this one has really stood the test of time. And part of that is that the core of this is not only a true belief that we can really do this as a collective impact, but that we also have outcomes for that we want to achieve. And that includes not only school readiness from our end, but also family outcomes that are supportive and positive. And this can't be done alone. Like, you know, and I've said this many times, if you want to go fast, you go alone, right? But if you want to go far, you go together. And I think this is where concretely, especially during the pandemic, Sherrice and I and Maria were talking on a daily basis around how to support the community through the Family Resource Center initiative and this network of providers that really were the front line and essential to a lot of the very basics, what we call basic supports, but they're part of just being human, of food, shelter, and immunizations and healthcare and a lot of other things that it would have not been able to be done if we would have not had this trust and relationship and actually relational trust between the departments.
I wholeheartedly 100% agree. I think also during that time we were able to sit down and talk about, like, how do we continue with the system of care? How do we have this continuity? What does a deeper, more stronger partnership need to look like? How do we need to be more connected? If anything, it really highlighted for us where we are successful, where we're aligned, and how we are able to coordinate because we have that trust. I mean, we were in the same building at one point, upstairs, downstairs, easily to talk to, but it really drives home the point that we can't do it alone. Like she said, she's the first quarter. I come in second, third, halftime, and fourth quarter. But the FRCs do highlight, you know, where they're coming in from 0 to, and they do go to 17, but there's an overlap. And what does that overlap, you know, look like, and how can we make sure that we are providing the resources and supports for our families, for the children, for the youth? What did this look like in bringing in the school district and actually even partnering with HSH? I think it's a great foundation to build on and see how we can build it out even more.
So, thank you. In all this, you know, as I'm listening to what you're hearing, I can imagine that there's a lot of overlap. Hey, we do this and we do the same thing. But for a successful collaboration, you often have to define your roles and be central on a shared goal. How did you two, or your two departments and teams, decide who was going to take on which part of work? How did you decide, hey, this is our job, and really come together around a shared goal in that way?
That's a great question. I think because it overlaps, and Ingrid definitely jump in, because it overlaps, it's like there are lanes that are both our lanes. Yeah. And so this is where I said earlier, there's a part where I lead and there's a part where I support. I support the 0 to, I'm going to say 12 for right now, with what a deck does. And then I come in and I have the 5 to the 24, where then ECE supports the work that we're doing. And so you know your lane in that, yeah, I have the 0 to 5 that you don't have to worry about, but I need you to pick up the ball when they turn 5 and up. and then I need to throw the ball to the district as well. I mean, it's all interconnected, but I think that's how we understand where our strengths are and we understand where the support needs to happen. But the fact that we can, that we continuously communicate on that, and sometimes it switches and changes depending on what the situation is. And so I think, and this will lead into probably a later question, understanding what each department does and understanding how you interconnect and overlap and what that looks like will lead to more successful partnerships, will lead to ensuring that communities are getting what they need, ensuring that the CBOs are supported and are able to deliver the quality services that they're doing, as long as we know, I know what you do, you know what I do, we know what we do together.
Yeah.
Well, just
Breaking the rules here.
I'm breaking the rules. I'm sorry. Sorry. Just a concrete example was when we were talking. So during the pandemic, we were trying to figure this out, and we were talking about our struggle with food and access for food. Right? All of you remember this. And Ingrid said, "Well, you know, we use Sheffables, and they're a great provider. Do you want us to connect you with Sheffables?" And we said yes. And then we discussed, and now we have, now DCYF has this fantastic partnership with Sheffables. But that's because there was this partnership. And it wasn't about ego, it wasn't about who gets credit for what, it was about common purpose. And we were all very focused about, we wanted to make sure that the kids had food. Like, basic things, right? And because of that, we came to the table and we acted. So I think that's the beauty of what Sherrice was talking about, relational trust. Because then you're not worried about stepping on someone's toes. We're all moving towards the same purpose.
But we all know that families come in with multiple needs at times. It's not just all really sort of siloed. I only need ECE, right? Childcare. I only may need, this. And with children who are of different ages. And that's just the nature of how families are structured. One of the things, very concretely, to answer Supervisor Sherrill's question is on a very technocratic side of the Family Resource Center initiative. Because we're joint funders, there is a role and a function that's very specific. Our department is the lead department, but that means that we also share with the other departments the evaluation framework, and are they in agreement with this? So all the data that you provide, we actually share it back with each of the departments. We make meaning of that data, which actually informs then the iteration of the family support work, or the iteration around early childhood services or youth services, or however is it that the data is pointing to. So there are things that are not just because we've been working together, it's because we've structured it in a way that actually creates sort of this ongoing conversation about what are the needs in the community and how are they showing up for different age groups. And then that's when we start sort of dividing, if you will, who does what.
Fantastic. Thank you. So you said something about coordination when families need other services. I want to put a pin in that one, but I'm going to come back to that one. I thought that was a great point. But first, Marion, the downtown high school partnership is something that I personally think is really interesting. Could you two talk a little bit about the success of that collaboration between HSH and SFUSD?
Sure, I can.
Well, I think it's a success, but you can.
I think so too. So one other thing, just before
please.
The conversation that we were just having, I think it's really important what you just brought up. And for the folks in the room, funding drives, oftentimes who's going to be the lead on what. We all know that. Especially in nonprofit organizations, you have, braided funding, just like we do, and, that determines who's going to be on point, and what resources are brought to the table in the examples that were provided. So those two things are also really drivers in determining who's going to be in what lane. So the stayover program, that program is so critical, and it's a powerful collaboration between the Department of Homelessness, SFUSD, and also Mission Action. And is anybody from Mission Action in this room? It's a community-based organization based in the Mission, formerly Dolores Street. But that organization, well, this program is a huge example of how community can drive solutions and what happens when government decides to back community-driven solutions. And so what Mission Action did is that they said, okay, we have children that are experiencing homelessness while trying to go to school. What can we do? What can we do to support these families experiencing this? And so they created this particular program and brought it to, and I'm not sure in what order, correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, they brought it to HSH or they brought it to SFUSD, and we figured out how we were going to be able to fund that program. And so it's also highlights for me that, you know, our organizations and our departments can do more than one thing. Our school district is also acting as a safe haven, so they are providing shelter for families. And just to give you some numbers, this particular program serves 25 families, which represents 80 individuals who are using this as their housing. It's an overnight program except for non-school days where they are able to have 24/7 access. But again, the school district is providing a safe haven. The community-based organization, Mission Action, is providing the case management, the services, and the support. And so it's a critical model that is flexible and adaptable. So this program initially started off at Buena Vista Horace Mann, and now because of the construction and the renovations, it has transitioned to downtown high school. But it's really a program that's both a housing response and also an equity intervention. Like, this is, again, I can't underscore enough how important this program is to the community. One other number I want to highlight before, you know, I pass the mic is that since its inception, I believe in 2017, which is before my time with the city, it has served children that go to school in 96 different schools of the 126 schools in SFUSD. I want to say that one more time. So children from 96 schools throughout SFUSD has passed through this program of the overall 126 schools in the school. So that just tells you how visionary and also adaptive and expansive and far-reaching this program is.
Thanks, Marion. I think, yes, we should clap for that. We're coordinating so much, we're also wearing the same jacket.
Yes, my twin.
I love it. I love it.
That's the work of a good moderator. Just
Yes.
for the record, it's prep work.
I really appreciate this question because on top of what SFUSD is supposed to be doing, which is educating our students, right? Teaching reading, writing, math, and those big goals that we have. We also have a guardrail that's called Whole Child, and that's about supporting our young people. It means that we fully recognize that our children cannot learn if their heart is not ready. And so if we want to make sure that our students' hearts are ready, it means that we really need to think about how we provide that sense of safety and security and, quite frankly, welcoming and we see you feeling. And part of this was going to the community that was experiencing the most underhoused separation from the vitality of this city are families who did not have stable housing, who were underhoused, who were couch surfing, who were just trying to figure it out day by day and at times hour by hour. And when families came together and our schools listened, and then our teachers said, you got to do something about this. Our students are not learning because they're not coming to school with the mentality to learn. They're coming to school hungry or scared or just trying to figure out where they're going to sleep tonight. As a city that is this wealthy, that is not okay. And so the community came together with our nonprofit leaders to say, what do we as a city have to do to address this? Because if our values are truly serving the whole child and really about making sure that we have services and programs that meet the needs of our families, what can we do? And HSA really stood up. And I will also give props to DEC and DCYF because, again, it takes a village. Right now, well, it was at Buena Vista Horace Mann, and we're doing renovations there. But I had the opportunity to walk through Buena Vista Horace Mann and observe the setup for the stayover program. It is done with so much dignity for our families because being homeless should not be clouded in shame. Not having access to food should not be a shameful thing. What's shameful is that we've allowed that to happen.
Yes.
And so we, as a system, need to do better. And this is our first step in getting there. We need to do more. But we stepped in. And I think that's the beauty of community-driven, community-led advocacy that then says to government, hey, we're seeing this, we're feeling this, help us figure out a solution. Yeah. And it's us and some of you in the room here, we need to come together and say, okay, what do we as a community of people with privilege, what do we do to help these families, to help the needs that we're hearing on the ground? And I think that's the beauty of this partnership.
Yes. Well said, twin.
But, you know, you both brought up great points. And this obviously is successful because of leadership. But in a lot of ways, you make it seem kind of easy. Hey, we share the same values.
It was not
We've
easy.
identified the problem. No, yeah, and I know it's not easy. Interdepartmental, cross-departmental coordination is really hard. And it's harder when you don't have the same boss. The school system and HSH mayor, school system, Board of Education. When you don't have the same boss, when you're trying to get your staffs to go through a new program, it's hard to ask people to do something new, to do something differently. How do you overcome institutional inertia, which I don't mean as a negative, it is what it is. It's a reality. We're humans. Like, sometimes we don't want to get off the couch. How do you overcome that institutional inertia, regardless of the values, because everybody basically agrees on those things, but to really get people to step up, to align on a goal between departments that don't share a boss, to be basic about it? How did you two or your departments really overcome that to actually make this happen? Because it's not as easy as you just said, as it may seem. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it was extremely hard. And you're right, not having formal authority over some of the leaders who could make this system work is really difficult. And quite frankly, we see this throughout all of our systems, right? When we don't have formal authority to direct staff to do something, and you have to compel. But what do you do? And so those of you
Voluntold versus volunteer?
Voluntold. I do a lot of voluntolding.
Sorry. Keep going.
Yes. I think Madison voluntold. So that's where you have to have common purpose. When you have common purpose and you have clear goals about what the end result may look like, and bring people to the table and use data to guide decisions. We bring the data, and unfortunately, there's some data that you cannot unsee, and they hurt your heart. And you all know what those data points are. And in this situation, we saw children, black and brown children, because we're going to say it, who did not have food, who did not have a place to stay. And you have to look at everybody in the face and say, is that okay? If it's not okay, let's do something about it. Jump on board and let's get this done. And if you're not, and you've got other priorities, that's okay, but then step aside, right? Because we got a lot of people who are not okay with that, but they're going to stand in your way. And that's hard because, again, in this situation, we created something brand new, and we converted a school into a temporary shelter every night. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is involved in that. And I'm just going to go so basic. My facilities folks are like, what? What are you talking about? That means I have to keep the lights on, I have to make sure electricity, I have to make sure all of these things. No, but when you go back and say, so then is it okay that our children are going to show up at school hungry, scared, deprived of sleep? When we frame it that way and use data to inform decisions and drive initiatives, it pivots the conversation to then what is possible.
I mean, not much more I can say to that, but you have to be able to have uncomfortable conversations. You have to be able to sit in the room and have those very uncomfortable conversations. You have to be able to coalesce around shared priorities and shared clients. And I think we'll get into this and further along on the panel, but, oftentimes we may define our populations that are shared very differently. And so coming around and actually understanding who we're serving, why we're serving, and looking beyond a financial return on investment to those soft benefits that are critical and that pay dividends far and beyond into the future is really important to define. And also just connecting back to why is this beneficial to our community? Why is this beneficial to whatever administration is in office at the time? Why is that? And making sure that we're clear in articulating those things. That's how we are able to come to the table and get things done that's just very difficult.
I think that's such a good point you bring up, because I have to imagine, let's use the facilities team as an example, shaming them into why aren't you just stepping up and doing the right thing here probably isn't going to work long term. And the way you said it, having that articulate conversation, aligning on goals, aligning on values, it's really hard. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think for all of us who see someone standing in our way, why aren't you sharing our values? Why aren't you doing these things? It's often for a decent reason, like I have too much work, I don't have time. And so I think that's why I'm really glad both of you highlighted how hard that is, but also how important it is. So do either of you want to jump in and touch on that before we go to the next kind of topic?
I just want to say it's hard, but it shouldn't be. If we keep children and youth and the families at the center, it shouldn't be a difficult decision and shouldn't be difficult to figure out how do we work together, how do we make this work, because we have that shared vision that we are trying to support this, right? This is who we, no matter what, this is what we're trying to make a difference on. And so when you lose sight of that, when we get into these silos and you erect all this red tape, we get in our own way. We need to stop getting in our own way. We need to check the egos at the door and constantly, at least for me, I always, children and youth and families are at the center. If anyone does anything in detriment to that, move aside. You are not going to help us get this stuff forward. And that's the mindset, I think, if we want to move together as a city, that's the mindset that we need to have and understand and figure out how does all of our work feed into that, and how does that look to work collectively and collaboratively to make that happen.
Yeah, that's why we need clear-eyed leaders like you four, frankly, pushing us forward. Exactly.
I don't think it's about shaming anyone. Sorry.
No, that's
okay.
I agree. It's not. It doesn't work. That's
doesn't
exactly
work.
what yeah.
Sorry. We have a slight emergency. Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's why we have to use the data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I was suggesting that shaming doesn't work, and I was suggesting the way that you both talked about it was incredibly empathetic to both sides, realistic, but also thinking about how do we together get to success in the most productive way. I thought it was incredibly important you did that. Shame doesn't really work.
But imagine if we use this model for everything.
Yeah.
Right? If we have that same level of urgency and partnership, deep partnership, and many of you have heard me say this, imagine if we said, look, we believe that every child in the city needs to have their basic needs, food, shelter, and education that will lead to something. And we said we're going to throw all of our monies down on the table to do it. Just imagine what we can do, which goes back to Supervisor Sherrill. I do believe San Francisco can be everyone's first choice. And quite frankly, it's more of when people think of San Francisco, they should think, oh, that's a family-friendly city. I want to go there, right?
Absolutely.
We can do it. We just gotta get out of our way.
And we've done it.
And we've done it.
The pandemic, I will say, in my 18 years with the city, that was the one time where I saw the entire city come together, be aligned, be coordinated, being able to get stuff out. Yes, there were a lot of hiccups and difficulties, but we collectively came together across departments, district, philanthropy, CBOs. What we were able to see happen, people still talk about what we did here in San Francisco during the pandemic. I hear it when I go to the East Coast, down south. Everyone talks about, people called constantly, how are you guys making this work? How are you guys ensuring that folks are getting fed, that people are getting housed, that youth are still getting connected to and having support with school? How are you guys making that work? It's because we had that shared goal that we cannot let the community down. We cannot let families fall through the cracks. We have to do everything that we can. And this is where I saw silos go down. Like I said, that red tape, stuff that I know used to take 9 months took 2 days. 2 days. So it's possible. It's possible. We just have to continue with that mindset and that momentum and like I said, have that shared goal and remind each other. Don't go back to how we were. Move forward to we know how we can be and we know what's needed to move forward, and let's stick with that.
Well, that makes total sense. And kind of on that frame, Director Mezquita, I'd like to go back to something you said earlier about how when someone comes to our front door, they also probably need other things. It's a great example where collaboration is incredibly important, but there are also a lot of challenges. It is, I think you're 100% right. So what are some of the challenges we're seeing to increase and enhance the collaboration that is so necessary to providing that cradle to career continuum?
I think a few things. One is everyone who has shared sort of these strategies that we've done, it's really keeping that approach as a sort of just as something, as a practice that we do. And one of the challenges that has been around for many years, the pandemic actually amplified this in terms of the data that you see it and you cannot unsee it. And that is our African American students in the just inequity of educational outcomes that are fueled by really systemic racist structures. Let's just be honest. That's what it is. It's an outcome. And so during the pandemic, we really doubled down amongst all the departments that really was about supporting children from birth and on. And the outcome is that now for the second year in a row, we're seeing African American students rise in a significant way in their school readiness when they enter kindergarten. That gives you not only, yes, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. an ability for us to be able to see the data, but be able to do something about it. And how we come together as a community also matters significantly. We funded an African American early educator pipeline so kids could see themselves in the classroom. That matters significantly. We supported family resource centers in being able to center not only Black joy, but also excellence in family support, excellence in instruction, excellence in the expectations that we have. That's a mindset also shift, and that you can call transformational. It is paradigm, it's a paradigm shift, but that is part of the consistent approach. And as we see the challenges, it's not impossible, it's just challenging. But that means that you can find opportunities and strategies and stick with them. And I think that's why, like the Family Resource Center has been able to, has this sort of, this stay that has transpired over almost 2 decades now, is that the approach is consistent, it's supportive, it's the ability to be able to connect families to wherever they are in their child's development and learning journey, but also that it takes care of that dyad, the parent-child relationship, that triad that also is with the provider. And so it is continuing that, and with the belief that it is within community, that community creates that level of change and that transformation. So all of the work that we do, yes, challenging as it may be, and the opportunities are there in tandem, and it's being able to see them and do something with that.
Great. So we're running a little low on time here. I'd like to do a little bit of a lightning round on challenges, if we will. So Marion, we'll start with you. We'll talk about challenges, but also opportunities. If there was one thing, magic wand, you would say, hey, this is standing in our way. I'd love to be able to attack this barrier and break it down. Not a fair question, but let's do it anyway.
Not a fair question at all.
You can pass the baton and come back and put the onus on someone else.
I think I got it. All right. So one thing I just want to level set around is that city departments and government are just like a standalone organization. We have the same challenges across the board. Yeah. And one of the things that if I could wave a magic wand, I'm going to pick this one of all the other ones I had prepared. But I would really love if our data systems could really talk to each other. I mean, we could accomplish so many things right now. In order to share information, we got to get all the attorneys in the room and do the thing with the thing and do all of that. But if our data systems talk to each other, we could see at a macro level who we are serving as shared clients by name, by demographic, how many times they've been served, what they've been provided, all of those things, and create a community treatment plan across these public services. And so for me, that would be the thing.
You know, I feel like Marion is like really talking to me here, because we actually worked on a project about doing just that with individuals suffering on the streets. So I don't know if that was for me and you're sucking up, or I don't know what. But, so anyway, okay, going down the line, Director Mezquita, magic wand.
Magic wand. I think very similar. It's not just about data, but aligned systems. And you can have data and you can integrate data, but if there aren't aligned systems, it's kind of all you're looking is at data.
Can you define aligned systems?
Aligned systems being in this cradle to career continuum that we're doing and that we've done, articulating it in a way where every city department actually has one goal, shared goal. In that shared goal, there's alignment. And that way, when you're looking at the data, so for example, we have less than 200 births now of African American children in San Francisco. Yeah. I want to know who those 200 babies are. And so there is this goal that we have around increasing school readiness for African American students, Latino, Indigenous, Pacific Islander children. If I knew from the very beginning who these babies are, we could coordinate amongst ourselves with aligned systems.
All right, That's awesome. All right, let's keep it going.
I don't think I could say anything better than that. Yes, shared data, aligned systems. I'm going to say the opportunity for that to happen with the passage of Prop J. Hopefully, the shared data, the aligned system, not just the one shared, but there's already 5 goals for the city that all of us need to be behind, that all of us need to be feeding into. And how do we do that collectively? The work that we're going to embark on with that is going to do that. Where do you see yourselves? Where do we overlap? What are the gaps and how are we going to address them collectively? So I'm just going to ditto the magic wand, because if we get that, we'll be good to go.
Well, I'll double, triple ditto all of that, because I agree. When we have common goals, common vision, shared data, we will be able to have a plan. So my magic wand would be, I would love to be able to fully fund that plan. And it's not just, okay, this project, right? Because I used to run DCYF just 12 months ago, and I know the pain that a lot of our CBOs have around, well, fine, you give us a grant for this, and we have to do this, but we see the problems over here as well. Okay, so imagine we create a way where there's more flexibility so that we can have that level of immediate response to emergencies or to trends. And I will also say that that means we need to have the system needs to have flexible operational funds so that we could do that, so that we can source our people appropriately. We can pay our people so that they can pivot and then bring in more resources. I know, I'm gonna have to wrap up. I will just give you an example. Well, first, two things. One, Ingrid's team is doing amazing because I am seeing kindergartners coming into African-American kindergartners. They've already increased their math rates by 13 points. All of this. Amazing, amazing. The other thing, we had some really painful emergencies at SFUSD in the last month. I legit called our CBOs. They picked up the phone calls, called Sherrice, and we were able to allocate additional resources. DPH showed up, providing additional resources to support SFUSD children and families and staff. That's the system we need. But in order to do that, we need to have operational funds. We need to have the funds to be flexible so that we can move things around in an easier way. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, I think I'm safe to say in saying that if you're interested in knowing what leadership looks like, it's these 4. So thank you so much for leading our city forward. And I'm not necessarily going to sign up for the goal of 1 year, number 1 for families. I'm going to go with the 10-year plan because it is going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of transparency, a lot of accountability, a lot of data sharing, and a lot of collaboration. But I think what we see today and what we've all seen is that with hard work, with a willingness to have difficult conversations and align around those clear and shared goals, it can happen. We can make progress. And I thought your example of COVID was a great one. We can do this. The hurdles are high, the challenges are hard, but we actually can do this. And so I want to commend you for being willing to have terribly thankless jobs and for serving us and our city so well, and especially for serving our children, youth, and families. So thank you so much, and thank you to all of you. Matt Franklin, take it away.
Thank you. I think there's going to be a photo right where you are.
Stand up or...
Let's stand up. Yeah, let's stand up. Let's give a hand to our panel one more time. Continue to hold, as I see some more pictures taking place. In the meantime, for those who are not taking pictures, pull out your cell phones And please scan the QR code that is on screen. It's also located in your program. Thank you so much. In your program, you will notice that there are panel details on the inside section, and each QR code there is unique to the panel. And we're going to ask you to go ahead and share what moved you, what questions you remember.